Emanating from the wrestling capital of the world, Calgary, Dramatic Park, Alberta, Canada, and broadcast to the world at www.stormwrestling.com and www.liveaudiowrestling.com. This is Storm Warning, your weekly audio check-in with Extreme Championship Wrestling superstar Lance Storm.
Lance, how's things in the wrestling capital of the world these days?
Oh, things are great. We're looking at a brown winter, though. Or a brown Christmas, rather.
No snow?
Nope.
No shoveling, then. Perfect.
Perfect, exactly. They're not even predicting any, so.
Excellent. Hey, you guys got the big show coming up in a few weeks. Of course, the Guilty is Charged pay-per-view Sunday, January 9th in Birmingham, Alabama. How's the card looking so far?
It's looking pretty good. Just Incredible and I are finally going to get a decent title shot again with Dreamer and Raven. I believe Van Dam's defending against Sabu for the TV title. And what else do we have? We got, I believe, a four-way dance with Jerry Lynn, Tajiri, Crazy, and Little Guido.
Pencil that in for the card, the match of the night.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the, well, next to mine, of course, but what else is there? I believe Mike Awesome is, I don't think I can say that one yet. He's defending his title. I think you have to watch TV this week to find that one out.
Is it can you give us a tease? Is it someone in the company or someone from Japan? Or?
It's an ECW guy.
Okay.
And there was another match. What is the other match that I've heard?
Candido, Rhino, how they involved?
Oh, I believe Rhino Sandman.
Okay.
I haven't heard a match yet for Candido. And I believe there is also either in a single or a tag, I'm not sure which, some combination of which with New Jack and Angel. I don't know if it'll be the Baldies with Balls and Axel or whether it'll be a single. I'm not sure yet.
Any news on Shawn Michaels joining the pay-per-view?
I don't know. I've heard that our side's talking to their side, so hopefully something will get worked out. I'm of the impression that he's willing to do it in an effort to get his boys work, and he's good friends with Justin. And we're certainly more than willing to have him on the show. So I believe it's just a call whether Vince, wants to let him work somebody else's show or not.
What about the rumors of FMW, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, doing a big angle with you guys?
I believe they are. Their president or their boss, the owner, I'm not sure who he is, Fuyuki, a guy I used to work with in War, was at our show Thursday night in Dover, Delaware for some photographs, him and Dreamer. So I know they're planning on doing continued business with us and some kind of, big angle, some kind of thing happening in Japan. I don't know the details.
So we're going to see more of all the FMW guys. I mean, is Ganasuke coming over? Hayabusa? What have you guys heard?
I don't know. I've heard more us going there than them coming here. I have heard Tanaka coming back, as well as, what's the other name that I heard? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the other guy's name, but I did hear two guys coming our way, though.
Kanamura?
Might have been him, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it's the end of the year. People are going to start talking about their favorite matches. What's been your favorite match this year, and how do you rate workers in matches?
The favorite match that I was in, I would have to say probably either the single with Jerry at Anarchy Rules, because I think that was my best wrestling match of the year. The other match that I could put up with my favorite was the tag with Van Dam, just because that's probably the single most match in my career that I've had the most input and involvement in.
Right.
As far as actually getting that match put together to be on pay-per-view and then putting the match together as far as laying the whole thing out. Because that was right after Rob's wife had the jet ski accident, so he really was, there physically but not mentally. So it was, a match that I think I've never had so much involvement in the whole aspect of everything. One of those two.
So how do you rate matches? I mean, there's like this mystical thing, that's a 2-star match, that's a 5-star match. How do you rate matches?
Me, the biggest thing is the match has to make sense. I think a prime example was that cage match that was on Raw on Monday.
Right.
To me, that was just god-awful, the worst thing I've ever seen.
Really?
The object of the match is to win, and you have one of the Hardys, I don't remember which is which, the blonde guy, climb up to the top of the cage, and had he just jumped down the other side, they would have won. But instead, he does this ridiculously huge and fantastic. I couldn't believe the guy dove like that and landed so flat, bumped into the ring. It's like, so why would you risk, from a logistic standpoint, why would you risk this huge move that could kill yourself when you could have just climbed down the other side and won? And then Edge climbs up to the top, and again, instead of winning, decides to dive back into the ring. And to me, that just makes the whole match mean nothing because they obviously didn't even want to win. And that's where matches fall apart with me. They need to make sense. You need to make me believe that each guy's trying to win. And they failed to do that in that match.
Who's the best guy right now in the world at making it look like he's really trying to win? Who does it psychologically?
I think Otani with New Japan is phenomenal. His facials and the way he sells every near fall. If it's him getting covered when he kicks out on a close one, he's diving to the ref to make sure he didn't lose.
Right.
He really sells it that he didn't know whether that was it or not, and that was the most important thing.
Uh-huh.
Benoit, of course, is great for that. He's great for everything.
Sure. Hey, did you get a chance to watch the Armageddon pay-per-view on the weekend?
Haven't seen it. I heard about it, though.
You know where I'm going to go with this one. Miss Kitty. You know, about a month and a half ago. Exactly. Last month she was poised to be the First Lady of Memphis. Now she's the First Lady of Boob for Vince McMahon in New York. What do you make of this?
I really don't have a big problem with it. You know, it's on pay-per-view, but I think they need to at least let you know it's coming and disclaimer the show from a parent standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can put softcore porn on pay-per-view if you want to, as long as, you know, in the ads and in the, you know, the pre-show or whatever you state that it's got the strong sexual content or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they do that, you know, then I don't have a problem with it.
But they kind of set it up on Raw. I mean, Miss Kitty going and saying, "Oh, I'm not wearing any. I don't wear underwear in China."
Yeah, but we did that on our one pay-per-view. It only aired in one market. The single match that I had with Dreamer at, I think it was Hardcore Heaven.
Was that the pile driver match?
The pile driver match where
right.
He swore he was going to pile driver, and she said, you know, I'm so confident you're not. I'm not wearing underwear. And unfortunately, only one market aired it. I think MSG did.
Uh-huh.
So when she actually comes through the curtain and I walk through the curtain, hand her underwear, make her put them on, everybody in the world other than New York had no idea what we were doing. But, you know, I don't think, you know, regular fans figure they're going to deliver on actual nudity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they advertise it or at least put a disclaimer up that they're going to, then I think they should feel free to do so. They'd probably pull a bigger buy rate. Although I guess the point is now they didn't advertise it and they delivered, so now every pay-per-view from now on, as long as there's a women's match, every horny 18-year-old is going to be tuning in going, oh, I hope she does it again.
This might be the first pay-per-view where the repeat broadcast is a better buy than the first window.
It might. Although you can get free pictures of it on the internet, so you really need to buy the pay-per-view. I don't know.
No, that's certainly true. ECW's teased nudity for quite a long time. Is any chance you guys will actually do it now the taboo's been broken?
I don't think so. You know, you never know. I don't think the women in our company right now necessarily want to.
Mm-hmm.
I know they actually have done it in the past, back way in the day, actually, when it was Eastern Championship. They did a match where the two women involved didn't end up getting naked like they promised, but there was a girl that did.
Oh, so Todd Gordon was involved in that, and he brought someone in, or?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a long time ago. I did see the tape, but it was like years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then there's been accidental nudity once or twice. I think Francine fell out of her top getting pile driven once.
Right.
But I don't think we need to. You know, I think seeing girls roll around in thongs is enough for a wrestling audience.
Yeah. It's like, where do you go? Where do they go now? Like,
yeah,
that's it. Now you can't have an evening gown match without having, you know, someone end up topless, or, you know, the crowd's not going to go home happy.
Yeah, so it's you know, it's a dangerous precedent, but, you know, if they want to deliver that, and they probably could, you know, they've got enough women there, they could probably continue to deliver, as long as they let people know, so that, you know, parents at home that don't want their kids seeing this can, you know, draw the line.
Right. Any more news about Dusty Rhodes in ECW?
Not really. He was supposed to be there this past weekend in Virginia, or at least that was the impression I was under, and he wasn't. I hear he'll be there in Nashville on Friday, and I've heard he's doing White Plains as well next week. So I hope so. He was mentioned at the TV taping, so I would imagine he is planning on being in again.
Anything about Magnum TA, Nikita coming in, maybe Tully?
I haven't heard those names thrown around. I have heard a couple names, but I haven't heard any definite plans as yet. I would imagine they'll get somebody, you know, along the lines of a Dusty Rhodes to play off him with Carino or Dream or whoever.
Well, it looks like it worked. I mean, the numbers went up this week on TNN.
Yeah, they were good. You know, it wasn't our highest rated show yet. It was really close. I'd like to think the 1.3 last quarter hour was due to PJ.
It was nice finally seeing him get a match in there.
It was actually his first single match
since
we debuted on TNN. God, what, 5 months ago?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want to rush these things, I guess.
Don't want to rush your main eventers or the guys you really want to promote to
heaven
television.
Heaven forbid you get your top heel over that's, you know, got a 5-year contract with you.
Well, we got to see Uganda. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get to some email questions, some Lance Storm fan questions. This one comes from Amber. Hi, Lance. I love the website. It's very good and informative. I just have one question, though. How did Owen Hart's death affect your wrestling? Since you might have trained with him, did his dying affect your need to get in the ring and wrestle?
It didn't really affect me from a business standpoint as much. I actually didn't know Owen, really. I'd met him, I think, only twice. Only said actually a couple words to him, basically just, hi, nice to meet you. So I didn't really know him all that well. And from a working standpoint, since his death was such a bizarre accident that it didn't really happen, due to anything wrestling. It was, a stunt, an entrance or something that was very, unique, only done, by a few different people, that I didn't really feel that it, was an additional danger to continue in the business. I think it was a terrible accident, and that was all. We lost a great guy, but it didn't really affect my wanting to wrestle or anything else. It was still what I wanted to do, and I still thought it was a very isolated incident that hopefully will never happen again.
Has anything in the ring ever, outside of your company, ever affected what you do in the ring?
Probably the one thing that was the most was the injury to Dave Finlay,
right.
When he got his leg sliced up doing the table. I sat down and did a real serious, soul searching, so to speak, to decide whether I ever want to do a table again. Because, it's a spot that's done so many times, so many guys do them. And here's a guy who I know and have a world of respect for and thinks probably the most talented guy in the business. The world just doesn't know it yet. And his career, almost was ended. And I'm thinking, how many times, even just on a spot show, just for an easy pop, do guys dive through a table?
Right.
And get hip tossed through a table and speared through a table, and it's like your career could be over. So you start really thinking, there's a lot of things I can do other than tables. Do I really want to risk it? Especially when, for the most part, tables, especially with me, a table is something that other guys are using to get themselves over, and I just sort of have to put up with on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that I myself need to get over or have ever really used for myself. Do I want to risk my career just because the other guy happens to like doing table spots?
Right, right. We got another one here from Harold Stevens in Norwalk, Connecticut. Lance, what are your views on Taz going to the World Wrestling Federation? Do you think this will affect ECW in any way?
I think everything in the business affects everybody somewhat. I don't think it's going to affect us all that much. I think ECW is going to be fine without Taz. I think Taz will be fine with ECW. The only question I have with him going to New York, and he probably won't like me saying this, but they don't have a real tradition for pushing guys necessarily his height.
Right.
I hope they do, because I think he's a talented guy, and he's got a very good character that I think people can get behind. They just don't have a huge track record on pushing guys that are, under 6 foot, 6'2".
Mm-hmm. Do you think Paulie maybe is the only guy that understands how to program Taz?
I don't think so. I think, I think Taz knows his strengths and his weaknesses, and I think, Vince, if he wants to get somebody over, can. I think he's proved that, almost beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's the odd person that, just can't get over, and Vince couldn't even get him over, but
right.
Taz can get over. He has gotten over, so I think Vince will find a way to do it if he wants to.
This one comes in from Chris. Hey, Lance, first off, I'd like to congratulate you on finally making it to the World Wide Web and opening a website. Who do you think is the most underutilized talent in ECW or even wrestling? Personally, in ECW, Chris thinks it's Nova. What do you think, Lance?
I'm really, I hope I don't offend him, but I'm really getting tired of hearing Nova's name thrown around as the most underutilized or underrated guy. I think Jerry Lynn, just for the simple fact that he hasn't got a TV title yet, is the most underutilized. I think he is, probably, he's definitely top 10 in the business right now. He's in a groove. His work is phenomenal. I think so many people get caught up with Nova, and this is sort of back to the way I rate matches, that they think he's just the greatest underrated guy in the world because he comes up with so many inventive moves. And this business is so much more than just moves. And, being a good worker, which makes you underrated, being a good worker is someone that gets his opponent over as well as himself, maybe even more so.
Right.
Which is what, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, the true great workers in this business did. They took guys who are average and made them look fantastic. Nova, I don't think, does anything for his opponents. Pretty much all the stuff that he does as well are, extremely choreographed spots that, look neat and get a big pop for himself, but I don't see him getting the big pops and stuff for his opponents. That's what Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair and the great workers out there do. And Jerry does that. He takes great bumps. He's a great seller. He comes up with very inventive spots for both sides. Even just look at Rob Van Dam. He's had good matches. He's had bad matches. But he's had phenomenally great matches with Jerry. And I think if his matches are the best ever when he's in the ring with Jerry, I think a lot of that goes to Jerry. So Jerry's making Rob Van Dam look even better. And that's not easy to do. So I would say he's probably the more underrated.
This one comes in from Terry Harris. Hi, Lance. Great website. I've watched you from the Smoky Mountain and ECW tapes for a long time now, and now on TNN Weekly. My thoughts on wrestling are that I've really enjoyed watching it, but I think it's widely overexposed. They've raised the bar so significantly with high spots, chair shots, and sex. What are they going to do when all the fans start to take this stuff for granted? In closing, I'd like to say you're a positive role model for all Canadians to look up to.
Well, thank you. I think what's going to happen is the same thing that happened back, I don't know how many years ago now, the 5 years, 10 years, whatever it was, when it was starting to get overexposed before. They started going gimmick crazy where everybody was, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. And what they went back to was wrestling. And that's when Bret Hart won the world title.
Right.
They gave it to a wrestler that could go out there and give good matches. He didn't need chair shots. He didn't need tables. He didn't need a gimmick. He was Bret Hart. He wrestled, and damn it, I do it better than anybody. And that's what he said. That's what he did. And I think when people get tired of their 27 hours of wrestling per week on TV, and they're wrestling in mud and chocolate pudding and everything else, and the big dives through cage and blood everywhere, I think it'll come back to we want to see a match that makes sense and we can get behind and we can suspend our reality for a few minutes and believe this is a real struggle for a world title that means something. And I think that's where it has to go. And I think when it does go there, I'm going to be a very happy man.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. This one comes in from Drake Mayfair. Hey, Lance, I just wanted to say you look to be in fabulous shape, and the match between you and RVD a few weeks back on TNN was excellent. It was nice to see a bit more mat wrestling in an RVD match as opposed to high-impact suicide dives, etc. I was just curious as to how you got time to work out consistently doing house shows and such between broadcasts and pay-per-views. I was interested as to what your workout schedule actually looks like.
My schedule isn't as busy as people would think. I've gotten a lot of mail on workout schedules and stuff, and I'm thinking of doing something up for the website. But if I can get to the gym 4 days a week, I'm happy with that. With the wrestling on top of that, I find any more days than that, really, you get into overtraining. I used to train a lot more. I try to do my whole body twice a week, and I ended up cutting back to just training every body part once a week, and I grew. I think overtraining is something that a lot of people fall into. And so I think, doing less and doing it better a lot of times, even with matches, I find that philosophy works. I think, doing less and doing it better sometimes is your best result. And if you keep coming back to the website, I think I'm going to do some kind of workout thing or program or something up on the website at some point. So.
Oh, great. This one comes in from Greg Weisgerber. I'm a big fan from Edmonton, Lance. I watch ECW, WCW, and the World Wrestling Federation. I saw you on Off the Record, and I thought you did a great job and sounded very knowledgeable about various subjects. I like your site and will visit it often. I was wondering what your opinion is on the retirement, or pending retirement, I suppose, of Mick Foley.
I think if anybody deserves to take a break and call it a career, it's him. He's worked so hard for so long. And after reading his book, I can't believe some of the stuff he did. Boy, I thought I had it rough breaking in. He had it far rougher than I ever did. I had a cakewalk compared to him. He's worked really, really hard. His body's got to be killing him. He's got a couple young kids and a wife. So I certainly think he deserves to be retired in good fashion. I hope when he does, if he does do it soon, Vince does up a big tribute Raw and sends him on his way with the respect he deserves. If he wants to keep wrestling for another year or two, I think, feel free. But, I hope he retires before he is in too much pain and ends up like Dynamite.
Absolutely. A couple general questions that came in this week. Lance, if you could defeat anyone for a world title in professional wrestling, who would it be?
Oh, I remember that mail coming in, actually. It was funny because when I first read it, I thought, gee, that's a tough one. And I thought about it, and it's actually a really easy one. It would be Bret Hart. I've got so much respect for his work, and I think both him and I think, would see eye to eye on match strategy and psychology. So I think we would have a phenomenal match, probably one of the highlights of my career. And to borrow a phrase from Ric Flair, to be the man in Calgary, you have to beat the man from Calgary. And Bret's the man from Calgary for now, and hopefully I'll be the man from Calgary in the future.
Another general question came in. Lance, what was your worst match?
Oh boy, actually I remember this one. It was in town here in Calgary for Canadian Rocky Mountain Wrestling. Beef Wellington was booking at the time. Chris Benoit's former partner, actually. And I wrestled a guy by the name of Gregory Peck. And believe it or not, that was his real name.
Gregory Peck?
Gregory Peck. The match lasted about a minute and a half, I think. And he was so, I don't know who trained him, probably nobody. Someone just told him, hey, this business is a work, go in there and have fun. And it was so bad he could do absolutely nothing. I come back to the locker room. It was only one of 2 times in my career that I've actually come back to the locker room and complained to the boss. And I walked right up to Beef and said, if this guy is ever on another card, I quit.
Did you ever see him again?
Never did. So if he's sitting at home wondering what happened to his career, it was me. I killed it.
Hey, Lance, what's up for the TNN show this week?
The TNN show, I believe, is it'll be Chris Candido and Rhino versus Just Incredible as myself, I believe, is the main event. The winner of the match gets a shot at the pay-per-view, and since I already told you the pay-per-view match, I guess I killed the finish. It's a really good match, though. What else? Well, there's 2 girls in it, so it can't be all bad.
There you go.
I don't really know what else is on the show. It was a really busy, hectic TV taping. Paul missed his flight, got in late, so things were really, running around hectic. So I don't know what all was on the TV taping, what will make air this Friday, but for nothing else than our match, it's certainly worth watching. So.
And on the road, ECW this weekend, you guys are in Tennessee?
Yes, we're doing Nashville, the home of TNN. Heaven forbid they might advertise the show while we're there. We're doing Chattanooga and Cookeville, Tennessee, so it's actually 2 towns that I worked for Smokey a while back, so it'll be interesting to see if there's some Thrill Seeker fans.
Excellent. Lance, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week. Best of luck this weekend.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot.
Fans, if you want Lance to answer your questions on this show, email us at lancestorm@home.com. And don't forget to check back often at www.stormwrestling.com, the official website of Lance Storm for news, updates, and commentary. Retransmission in whole or in part of this broadcast without the expressed written consent of Lance Storm and live audio wrestling is strictly prohibited.